Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com. Get an in-depth preview of the Chicago Bears' next opponent and John Buffone's passionate rants on Buffone 55 Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Central. Happy Victory Monday, Greg Gabriel. We could get used to this, huh?
It's a triple victory Monday.
Why is that?
Bears won. Sox won last night. I'm not one of these Chicago fans that's either a Cub or a Sox.
I'm with you.
I came here 20 years ago, so I had no allegiance one way or the other. It's not like Auburn and Alabama. You're born an Auburn fan or born a Bama fan. And then, of course, my Buffalo Bills won last night.
And they won in very impressive fashion. We'll talk about that a little later in the show, but let's talk about those Chicago Bears first. So much to cover. I mean, I immediately after the game, we did our Bear football show, and I expressed my jubilation saying this was a total team victory from the coaching staff down to the lowest depths of the team, whatever you want to describe that as. I thought it was a great team victory.
Anytime you win, it's a great team victory. And when you win on the road, it's even better. I can't say Allegiant Stadium is a tough place to play in because this is the first season they've played games in that stadium with fans. Obviously, they played there last year, but it was empty. It seemed to me there was quite a bit of, as far as number of Bears fans there last night. I mean, it wasn't that I saw lots of orange shirts or whatever. They could have been blue shirts too.
Right.
But you could hear when the Bears did something good, you could hear it from the crowd. So there was enough people there to at least help the players a little bit. And the players did mention it. A few players mentioned it after the game in the post game interviews.
Yeah, indeed. And we've got a couple of people in the chat room who were there and really expressed their appreciation for that stadium. And I know you later on you want to talk about the Arlington Heights and a possible stadium thing, but let's continue talking about the game first. What impressed you most about the play calling and the offense? Now we know it's no secret. Bill Lazor's calling the plays. Matt Nagy wasn't even holding a play sheet, which was.
No, I disagree with you there. There's a couple times I saw him walking up and down the sideline with the play sheet.
Okay.
But he. Lazor's doing a good job. I think depending on where they're playing and who they're playing is going to determine what they're doing. And they want the Raiders are a good team. I almost said Oakland. Uh, the Raiders are a good football team,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they went in there with the idea of we have to control the football. And in the first half, they held on to the ball for almost 20 minutes. Now, unfortunately, they lost a lot of that. It didn't even up, but they lost a lot of it in the third quarter because they couldn't get really anything going, but they did again in the fourth quarter. The game plan obviously wasn't to throw the ball a lot. Part of that, I think, is the inexperience of Justin Fields. You're trying to protect him. And I think as the season goes on, you're going to see him do more. But I also think, to get to my point I started making at the start of this conversation, is where they play is going to have a lot to do with it. In other words, you'll probably see him throw the ball more next week at Soldier Field if the weather's good. Right now, the weather's supposed to be good. Than you would on the road, because you're just not going to have that crowd noise, etc. And on top of that, and Nagy touched on his presser this morning, but really didn't go in depth, and probably purposely so. But with Mike Pettin being on the staff here, they have an inside look of the personnel of the Packers, especially the defensive personnel of the Packers, being he coordinated them for the last 4 years. They're going to know the strengths and the weaknesses better than they ever have of each player on that defense. And so, I think the offensive game plan next week, some of it will be built around what Pettin's intel has to say.
Yeah, I saw and heard that too. Matt Nagy answering a couple of questions regarding Pettin's involvement in the game plan, and he was very effusive in terms of any specifics. But so that sparked a question in my mind that I wanted to ask you is: do you think that Pettin perhaps, because they're going to change scheme, they know Pettin knows what he knows, but do you think Pettin's main value is in his evaluation of players on both sides of the ball, offense and defense? This is what they do best. This is what this guy doesn't do best. Do you think that's perhaps Pettin's main value this week?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Joe Barry's going to run Joe Barry's defense.
Right.
So, what Mike did previously has no bearing. What he can help with is really knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each individual player,
and that's
especially the weaknesses. And this is what you can attack on this certain player,
right? And that's very, very important, right?
Right. I mean, and a lot of times you're not going to get that just looking at the film. Okay, you can guess, but you don't know for sure. He's going to know for sure because he was lived with these guys for 4 years.
Outstanding. All right, regarding yesterday's game, so the Bears offense is 3-and-out on their first two series, and then the Raiders marched downfield on a 10 or a 13 play drive. They kept the defense out there a long time, and then I tweeted out, boy, the Bears really need a long drive, which they did get. And then I see this tweet. I thought that was outstanding because it was. They took advantage of the mistakes the Raiders gave them, and it was smart play calling and great execution. Tell us more about that drive that resulted.
There's no big plays. There are penalties that helped, like 2 or 3 in a row, if I recall. And they used up a lot of clock. They used up over 8 minutes. And, we don't talk about it that much, but time of possession in pro football is huge, especially, that's why I mentioned the third quarter. If the Bears could have used up some time in the third quarter, they would have blown the Raiders off the field in the fourth quarter because they would have been dead. Okay. But they weren't able to do that in the third quarter. But I just thought the game plan was good. They wanted to control the clock. They wanted to play a physical football game and kind of drive it down the Raiders' throats. And that's what they were able to do. I'll tell you, the offensive line took a lot of heat in the preseason. And, in the Cleveland game. But the last 2 weeks, the offensive line has been damn good. And, my buddy Olin Kreutz, he tweeted out a few times during the game about the play of the offensive line. And there's one, it was a gif of The Sopranos. James Gandolfini smoking a cigar at The Sopranos. And he goes, this is, the feeling I get watching the offensive line. And they were. And he had another tweet, James Daniels just blowing a guy off the line.
In fact, I have that one right here, I believe. Here it is. Watch number 68, writes Olin. And 68 is just to the right of Justin Fields right now. So there he goes, and bam! I love that. But here's the other thing that I love about it. Sam Mustipher, who has been getting so much crap that I think it's unfair, he does a great job here. He's a big part of the reason this was a positive play. Look at the center, number 67, right?
Absolutely.
Just beautiful blocking there. So if I get Olin Kreutz's blessing on offensive line blocking, I'm really happy.
I got to tell you what, I've been on Olin's podcast a few times. So he owes me one.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe in the near future, we can get him on this one.
That would be great. Love talking to Olin. We had him on the bar room about 2 years ago, and he was just so funny. And you talk about candid, boy. He's not going to edit himself in any way, right?
Oh no! I'll tell you what. I know Olin pretty well, but I didn't know his kids were as old as they were.
Oh, how old are they?
Well, he's got a son who's a freshman center at Illinois. And he's got another son who is a senior linebacker at Loyola.
Wow. Who
just accepted an invite to the Polynesian Bowl, which is a huge high school all-star game.
Nice.
But I remember, going back and probably was when I was with the Bears, so I should know that they're this old. But he goes, his wife would get all upset when his two boys would start to kick the shit out of each other on the front lawn. He goes, I just let them go at it, and have fun.
I wanted to ask you about the tight end position. We saw Jesper Horsted catch Justin Fields' first touchdown.
That was a hell of a catch, too, now.
Wasn't it? It was a great play, right? Here it is, in fact.
He reaches right over the head of the defender there and just grabs it.
He really did. Fields did the right thing there because really there was nobody open. If you're going to force it to somebody, why not force it to a guy who's got like 6-inch height advantage, right?
Well, on top of that, they could have thrown a roughing the passer flag on this play.
Another one, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah, he got up a little slow, and then I don't know if you have the clip after that. But after the touchdown, he's on his knees and he's going like this.
Yeah, I did see that. What do you think about Jesper Horsted? I'm a big fan of this young man, converted wide receiver from Princeton. He's been on the practice squad now for some time. Do you think that he's got a future as a top flight tight end?
I don't know if he's a top flight tight end. He's a move tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so but he'll give you effort. And speaking of tight ends like Wise, there was a block by Jimmy Graham in the second half.
Saw that.
That I almost tweeted out and I said, "Oh, hell with it." Had to be the best block of his career, not this year, his whole freaking career. Because he's not known as a blocker.
Right.
And he got down underneath that guy and his legs kept going and he just drove the guy right off the ball and kept going with it and helped the back. And I don't remember if it was Williams or Khalil Herbert, but hell of a block by Jimmy Graham on that particular play. But getting back to Horsted, I think he's when he's done with 4 years, if he's not if he doesn't take over for Graham as the number 2, as the move guy here, he'll probably go somewhere else where he can, and he'll probably get some money. He's very, very athletic. He runs good routes. He's got great hands. He's just not a blocker. Now he'll try. And there's been plays in the preseason where they line him up at the Y in tight, and he gives a solid attempt. It's just that, he doesn't have the power and the ass to do what some of those bigger guys can do.
And your evaluation on Cole Kmet and the type of season he's having now. I know a lot of Bears fans are unhappy that he isn't either A, getting more targets, or B, catching the ball more frequently. What are your thoughts?
I think he's not getting enough targets, but they're not throwing the ball that much.
Right.
He got targeted yesterday now.
I think 5 times, yeah.
Yeah. So how many times did he throw the ball? 20. So what's that tell you? He got the targets. The tight end position as a whole this season, I don't think has been utilized as much as they want. But part of it is you got to change things up. You got a rookie quarterback who's played now. Andy Dalton really hadn't played that much. Andy Dalton played one full game, the first game. Then the second game is when he got hurt and Fields comes in. So it's really Fields has been in there all except 1.5 games.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to be able to do – Fields might know the playbook, but I guarantee you they're holding stuff back because they want to be 100% sure that he knows what the hell he's doing when he's out there. And as he gains the experience, sees more things on defense, as far as being able to read things, etc., they're going to allow him to do more. And it's just, you can blame the coaches all you want. To me, that's smart football. What he's not doing is turning the football over.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Right. I was reading Brad Bigg's 10 thoughts on column, and always excellent. And one of the things he brought up was the amount of times the Bears have been running the ball the last 2 weeks. But he also wrote that that's not sustainable over the course of a long season. Do you agree with that, and that the Bears are going to have to eventually throw more in order to win games?
Oh, yeah. And what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing 8 in the box. And it's really going to open up the passing game. So it's also going to allow, like last week's game, play action worked very well because the running game was good. Okay. They really didn't have that opportunity yesterday to use much play action. But if teams start putting a lot of 8 in the box to try to stop the run, and we were seeing teams do that last year, and the Bears couldn't run the ball, then I think that's when you're going to start seeing the ball being tossed in the air more, even checkdowns and things like that. So it's, I hate the saying, but it's true. You got to take what the defense gives you. And if the defense is going to crowd the box and they're not going to let you run, then you got to throw the ball.
There you go. Well, apparently they weren't crowding the box too much yesterday, because between Herbert and Williams, there was almost 140 yards rushing between the two of them, and including this beautiful run by Damian Williams for the touchdown. That spin move had Justin Fields jealous, saying he wished he could make a spin move like that. What your assessment? I know before the game you said, I got a feeling that Herbert is going to have a great game. Your thoughts on this dual running back coupling by the Bears?
I said last week, I think right on this show when we recorded last week, I didn't think there was going to be a huge drop off. Damian Williams is a quality back. Problem is he didn't play last year. He chose to opt out because of COVID. But you go back to his last game before this year, and he should have been named MVP of the Super Bowl. But I think Mahomes was instead. And, probably rightfully so. But a big part of that win was because of Williams. This guy's a heck of a back. Now, for a guy that weighs 220 pounds, he's not really a power back, but he's very quick. He's elusive. He's explosive. He can catch the ball. And, we've talked about Herbert before. Right? We talked about him after the draft. We've talked about him during the preseason. This is a quality back. And what's going to happen because of that is, and I don't know if it's going to be next year or the year after, and the health and status of Tariq Cohen's going to play into this too down the road, but somebody's going to be gone and Herbert's going to be moved up a slot, so, and that's just the way business is. And maybe, and I don't know what the contract status is for Damian Williams. I don't know if he had a multi-year deal or a 1-year deal.
I think it's a 1-year deal.
Okay. So, but he's playing good. So now the Bears front office and they're tight with the cap. Who knows exactly what the cap's going to be next year, but it's going up.
Right.
And you don't have to pay a quarterback, and you got Andy Dalton coming off the books, which either tells me they're going to either pay him again to be the backup, if in fact he wants that role, and he probably wants to go somewhere where he has an opportunity to be a starter, or do they keep Foles as a backup, or do they go out and get another guy as the backup, and then you're going to have all of Foles and Andy Dalton's money, for next year. So, I mean, those are all things for the offseason, but it's going to play into, exactly what the Bears want to do.
Right. Big point in the game yesterday. The Bears are in their own side of the field. It's a 3rd down and 11 or 12, and Justin Fields throws this bullet to Darnell Mooney for the 1st down. That was big time football, wasn't it?
Great route by Darnell Mooney. And, if you look at Fields on that play, he goes through a progression, and Nagy talked about it, after the game, talked about it again today. He goes through the progression, sees Mooney. Mooney just sits right at the 1st down marker and, gets open, splits the 2 defenders, and, excellent throw, excellent route, huge play at the right time.
And the other thing regarding Fields that has a lot of Bears fans worry is that he took some punishment yesterday. I mean, and a lot, some of it legal, but most of it illegal.
I don't know if I'll call it illegal. That one hit I thought was on the touchdown throw.
Yes,
I thought they very easily could have thrown the flag on that, but he yeah, I guess they got a couple late hit calls on him, but that's what's going to happen playing with a rookie quarterback, because you're throwing everything at him.
Right.
So and trying to disguise certain blitzes, like they came with some blind blitzes, coming from the defensive backfield or whatever on delays, and he got hammered. But I'll tell you, and Nagy said it again this morning, he's as tough as they come, but he goes, at the same time, we've got to curtail some of this. And I agree with that.
Indeed. Anything about Justin Fields' play that concerns you at this point in his young career?
The only thing that concerns me, it's the same thing I've said week after week after week. He holds onto the ball a little bit too long at times, and he just doesn't have the release to get the ball out of his hands real quick for some of those quick passes that the best quarterbacks have. I think that, if he has a strong off season where they got a lot of time to work with him on that and break that habit of that hitch at the top of his delivery, they'll get that done. But it's not something that's going to get fixed during the season.
On the other side of the ball, Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn are becoming quite the dynamite duo as pass rushers. And both of these guys might actually split defensive MVP votes between them. Your assessment on the play of the Bears pass rush overall and those guys in particular?
We're getting the play from those two that we thought we were going to have last year. Is probably the best way to do it. And we talked about it last year when we started the show, and what Quinn brought to the table and what it was going to do for Khalil Mack. But now you got to add really 2 more people. Ocho got hurt yesterday, and I don't know how long he's going to be out, if at all. But Travis Gibson's coming on too now. So it's. And I'll tell you what I liked. Gibson gets his sack. Both Quinn and Mack are on the sideline, and they put the camera on him. And did you see the cheerleading they were doing?
Yes.
If this kid wasn't playing on this particular team, he might be a double-digit sack guy this year.
Totally agree with you. This guy, I mean, I was excited when he was drafted by the Bears. I knew he was kind of a diamond in the rough. And so frankly, I'm surprised and glad that he's developing as quickly as he has. Now, you've been in practice fields for your entire life. Can playing alongside two great pass rushers like that help the development of a young guy like that?
Well, yeah, it's what you're learning in practice from those guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and as far and you know, during training camp when you have the one-on-ones, you know, the pass rush, pass block one-on-ones.
Yep.
It's what guys like Mac and Quinn can teach a young guy, as well as the coaches, on hand use. Hand use is just so important to becoming a good pass rusher. Another thing is arm length. All those guys got long arms. Like I might have said it once before, but I know it's a fact because we did a study on it when I was working for the Bears. The common denominator around the league, and this goes back, you know, you can go back 25 years, of great pass rushers is not speed. It's long arms.
Really?
Really?
I would not have guessed that.
No. Do you think Michael Strahan, who's one of the all-time great sack guys, had speed?
No.
Very, very average speed.
Quickness, yes, is important, right?
Quickness, hand use, but they all got it. They're playing with leverage. You don't see a lot of guys with 32-inch arms being great pass rushers.
Interesting. Hey, Chris Watts wants to know how you grade the defensive backs on the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I keep clapping my hands about my man 22, Kendall Vildor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, last week when Stephon Gilmore became available, there are a lot of tweets. Well, the Bears got to go out and get him. Well, number one, they didn't have the money to go out and get him, and they didn't have the draft picks to go out and get him. But number two, why take the guy off the field that's your future? Stephon Gilmore is 31 years old.
Yep.
Kendall Vildor's in his second year. And you go back, he's 5'11", but I go back to my long arm thing because I'm big on measurables. He's got over 32-inch arms on a guy 5'11".
That's fascinating.
Okay, that allows him to play at 6'1".
And I got to tell you, I met him at the Senior Bowl, and I stood right next to him. I've got the video somewhere. I was looking down at him. So I'm surprised that he's listed at 5'11".
He's really like 5'10" and a half. But
yeah.
You know, so what? I was at one time 5'9" and a half, and I was listed at 5'10". You shrink when you get older. I'm probably 5'8" and a half now, for all I know.
But you can kick anybody's ass. I know, that's for sure. All right. What else on the?
I should tell you a story. I'll do it off camera.
Oh no! Everybody in the chat room wants to hear it now.
No, I can't right now. Very, very recent, as like last Thursday.
Ooh. Oh, okay. That's it for our show. I got to listen to the story. You were very complimentary about the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, Sean Desai. Tell me why you like him so much.
Well, number one, we're going back to very, very similar scheme and the way he's calling the defense to what Vic Fangio did. And obviously a protege, he grew up under Vic. I really like it. You know, it's as compared to what we saw the last 2 years under Chuck Pagano. The defense it's the same people. Defense didn't play as good. And I think as Sean Desai grows, he's getting better. And he's going to get better with every game. And I'm going to say it right now. Bears are going to beat Green Bay on Sunday. And part of it is going to be, it's going to be a close game. Part of it's going to be because of Mike Pettin. Part of it's going to be because of Sean Desai. And I think they're just going to, you know, early in the year I was watching, I thought the Green Bay defense stunk. Now they've played better in the last few weeks, but use yesterday's example. I don't know if you watched any of the Green Bay Cincinnati game.
I did.
Okay. The Bears manhandled Cincinnati. Cincinnati easily should have won that game.
Yep. Now, Oh, I lost my train of thought. I was something about
I
that
do
game.
that all the time. That's all right. It's called age.
um, I was.
Forgetting about Alzheimer's.
I was going to say their corner, Jerry Alexander, is out. He won't play
Right.
next week. And they're also going to be missing their other outside linebacker. I think it's Preston Smith.
Preston Smith, it was damn good.
It was excellent. So the Bears offense has that advantage going into the game that they're without two of their major players on defense. What did you see out of Aaron Rodgers yesterday? Do you think he's the same quarterback he was at his peak?
Yeah, with quarterbacks, because I don't know if the way these guys take care of themselves and the off-season programs, the weightlifting regimens and conditioning regimens they go through, we can see it with Tom Brady. He's 44 freaking years old and he's still playing like he's 23.
Unbelievable.
So and he's only had one serious injury in his career, and I think Aaron Rodgers has only had one, if that. And so it's what's up here. And Aaron, there's nothing you can throw at Aaron Rodgers that he hasn't already seen.
Yeah.
So it's really playing solid defense. Now, what the Bears have, what will be interesting to see, and probably some of this will have to do with Mike Pettin's input this week, is in the previous years, the Bears have opted to play really more in coverage against the Packers than blitz him because they know he's going to beat the blitz.
Right.
Okay. He's got an extremely quick delivery. And I'm just anxious really to see how the Bears are going to defend him this week, whether they're going to do what they have done, because he's going to beat you either way.
Right.
I mean, you got to play a perfect game. You got to create some turnovers. Special teams has probably got to create a score somehow, and you've got to score on offense and control the ball.
Absolutely. This week's defense, I wish I could be a fly in the wall when they're coming up with their defensive game plan. What do you think about what the question here that Tareen asked? Should we double cover Devontae Adams, which the Bengals did on certain plays yesterday? Do you see the Bears perhaps doing that, or maybe just having him tailed by our number one quarter, Jalen Johnson, the entire game like they did against Beckham in Cleveland?
Well, in the past, and this goes back to when Vic was here, Pettin did it too sometimes, but not as much as Vic Fangio. They would put the number one corner on the number one receiver and play a lot of man coverage. Now, could they do that? Yeah, they could, especially given the inexperience. I really like the way Vildor's been playing, and I think he shows improvement, every week. But given his inexperience, their other receiver, Reggie Cobb, he's no slouch.
Yep.
Again, very experienced guy. But, I think they might do that, given the situation. And you got to make now, the Bears really took out, what's his name, Waller, the Raiders tight end.
Oh, my goodness.
He was a non-factor in that game yesterday. Okay, you got to do the same thing with Green Bay as far as taking Tanyan out. Now, you want to comp for, going back to Jesper Horsted, you want to comp for Jesper Horsted? It's Tanyan.
Oh, okay. All right.
Tanyan was a nobody when he first came into the league.
Absolutely. But Tanyan is a better blocker, though.
Yeah, but you got to get strong enough. And blocking is, you got to have size and strength, but it's also a want to. If you want to be a good blocker, you can will yourself to be a good blocker.
Well, then I'm betting Horsted is going to be a good blocker because the guy's got a great attitude. Regarding Aaron Rodgers, you basically answered this already, but the formula was always keep him in the pocket. Don't let him get out of the pocket and run around to create 6 seconds of him looking downfield. And
he had a couple of those yesterday.
Yeah. And so that's the formula. Keep him in the pocket and force him to get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. Do you think that's what we might be seeing Sunday with the Packers and Bears?
What I'd like to see is like the first half of 2018, a week after the Bears got Khalil Mack, That's what I'd like to see. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah, and of course they're missing their left tackle, the All-Pro Pro Bowler David Bakhtiari, who
the other guy, the guy playing now, hasn't been playing bad.
But he may be injured too. I just saw in the chat room, who was it? Tony said that they may be without Elton Jenkins, who isn't he moved over to left tackle?
I don't. He may be. I'm not totally up to date on all their personnel. They've got guys down on the line.
Yeah,
there's no question about it. Hopefully, you're going to get Akeem Hicks back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and if you've got a healthy Akeem Hicks, and you've got Mack and Quinn going on full, all cylinders going, I think the defensive line as a whole for the Bears has played very well.
Mm-hmm.
The other guys have played very, very well. They're going to give Green Bay all they can handle.
They should.
Some of that wishful thinking on my part, yeah, but there's something about this Bears team this year that I really like. In fact, I'm going off topic a little bit here because I almost tweeted out last night right after the game, what's going to be the narrative of 90% of sports talk radio this week? Because about 75, 80, 90% of those guys want Nagy fired. But the Bears are 3-2. They've won 2 in a row. They've changed their identity a little bit on offense. So, now I haven't listened to 1 second of talk radio today, but what is their narrative going to be now? Because it's what they want to talk about is going out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and you gave a shout out to Kyle Brandt on the Good Morning Football show, who had a message for Chicago Bears fans. In fact, let me play a little bit of that.
It was a great thing.
Yeah, let me play a little bit of just a few seconds, and we'll get you to
play the whole thing. It's only about 45 seconds.
All right. Well, here it comes.
Pose a question. Matt Nagy's supposed to be fired, right? You're supposed to fire him, and you're supposed to sell the team and tear everybody down and fire everybody, and everybody sucks and everyone's terrible. Maybe if you were saying that, you should be fired.
Yeah,
because
Chicago.
Maybe you should. Maybe all you Bears fans should just shut up for a second and just chill out for 1 second. Just shut the hell up and let the games play out. Bears are 3-2. The measure of a man and the measure of a human being and the measure of a human football coach is what you do when you hit rock bottom. Since rock bottom against the Cleveland Browns, in which Justin Fields was sacked 9 times and it was a disastrous game, he's been sacked 3 times total in 2 games. They have run for 143 yards and 188 yards, including yesterday when they did not have their number 1 running back. No one should be fired. They're 3-2. This is the way it's supposed to look. And that game was really, really big against the Raiders. I am very impressed. It was a complete annihilation. People are calling for jobs and saying this and saying that. And those people should be embarrassed right now because it was neck jerk, jack. What's the expression? Knee jerk.
Well,
I like that neck jerk. Let's use that word. Neck jerk reaction. I thought that was tremendous. And in all honesty, I had turned on Good Morning Football like 5 minutes before.
Is that right?
Yeah. And they play it. It's like really only it's really a 1 hour segment that they repeat
that hour.
And I thought that was terrific. Now, granted, he's a Bears fan, but he's been a very critical Bears fan.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he has. And I got to tell you, I mean, there's still people, even after these 2 victories, who still want Matt Nagy out, just simply because what he has done. Yeah, and what he has done over the last few years. Do you think that perhaps Mitchell Trubisky would have been a more effective quarterback if Matt Nagy would have allowed Bill Lazor to groom him more and to bring him along the same way they're bringing along Justin Fields now?
Well, number one, the second half of last season, and it might have been more than the second half, Bill Lazor called the plays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
So that part of the question is already answered. The rest of it is all hypothetical, and who the hell knows?
Yeah.
I've seen a couple things. Well, maybe Trubisky was a lot better if he had a different coach.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we only know what we saw.
Right.
And, I hope that Mitchell would progress, but he didn't. And, they made the decision to move on. And because they made the decision to move on, they got an opportunity to draft Justin Fields. And I have said it a couple times. I don't know if he's going to be the best quarterback in this class, but at worst, he's going to be the second best. But I think as a whole, this group might be the best first round group in years. All five are going to be pretty damn good quarterbacks.
I'm glad to hear that, because I was super high on all five, and I was just praying that the Bears would get any one of those five guys. Obviously, they weren't going to get Trevor Lawrence, but after that, we didn't know if Trey Lance was going to go second or 10th, and I was just praying, give me Trey Lance, give me Mac Jones, give me any one of those guys. Because
we talked about this right after the draft. The whole key to them getting Justin Fields was Trey Lance going third. Had Mac Jones gone third, there's no way in hell the Bears would have had a shot at Justin Fields.
Because
just the way the quarterbacks would have fallen differently.
Right.
Because there was a love affair for Lance from a bunch of teams. And it's not what he is, it's what he can be down the road. Now, you can watch San Francisco's game yesterday. He struggled. He's going to struggle. Hell, he only played one game last year. Right. And then the year before, he's playing 1AA competition. He hasn't played against the big boys yet, but he's got a lot of talent. And really, that's the same thing with Justin Fields. There's a few flaws in this game that he's got to fix. His accuracy, though, is deadly. And then when you add in his ability to extend plays and make plays with his feet, and this is what I want, as long as we're talking about it, I'll go on it. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit about last night's game, because that, and then you can add Justin Herbert from the LA Chargers.
Yeah.
That's the future of the Chicago Bears.
Because you liken Herbert to Fields?
Well, no, it's how these guys have grown since they've been in the league. The guy that is the remarkable story to me is Josh Allen. Josh Allen in college was at best like a 55% completion thrower. And history has shown us there has never been a guy who was not accurate in college. Now, 55% in college football is horrible. Because of the way the college passing games are,
right.
And you should be up, and I'll go back, getting off topic a little bit here, but I'll go back to the year we took Rex Grossman, and then there was the quarterback, I can't think of his name now, from Cal that everybody thought we were going to take, and we never wanted. We had talked about that once before. We totally rejected him.
Right.
Kyle Bowler. The Ravens traded up in front of us to take Bowler because we put out the red carpet for Bowler when he came in, and it was all bullshit. It was to throw up. But anyway, Kyle Bowler was like a sub 50% thrower until his last year at Cal, when Jeff Tedford came in, and Tedford took him up to 59%. Okay, who fouled Kyle Bowler at Cal? Some guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, same offense, same coach, over 70%. What's that? What's that tell you?
Yeah. Right.
Okay, but with Josh Allen just was not an accurate quarterback. And when he played against better competition at Wyoming, you saw the big arm, you saw the ability to make plays with his feet, but the accuracy was just horrendous. He made some big throws, but the overall accuracy just wasn't there. And the same thing really his rookie year with the Bills, because I watch every Bills game, and he showed slight improvement his second year, but then last year, in his third year, his completion percentage jumped by over 10 points. When do you see that in the NFL besides never?
Yeah, right.
And a lot of that is the work he did in the offseason to, prepare and work on his weaknesses. He changed his delivery a little bit. And a lot of times when guys change the delivery, they work on it in the offseason. But then once the season starts and you get into the heat of the battle, they revert back to their original form. And then you lose it. That didn't happen with him. And I think right now he's one of the I was talking to a friend on the phone last night. We were watching the game, a friend of mine back in Buffalo, and I said, this is like Rembrandt against Picasso. I mean, they're two great quarterbacks. And then you throw probably the three best young quarterbacks in the game right now are those two and Herbert. And now you're going to, I think Fields is going to be right up with those guys, which is going to make the league interesting because, Brady and Rodgers are only going to be around so much longer.
That's right. Wow. I love that analysis. The fact that Greg Gabriel is saying that Justin Fields is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, that is music to the ears of Chicago Bears fans from all around the world. So that's awesome. All right.
Although just to finish the subject is that one of the keys is it's the player. The player's got to have the want to, the football character, the work ethic to be that great player. Josh Allen has that. There's no question, and in fact, Mel Kiper and I were talking about it, and this was after the draft, because I was, in all honesty, I missed on Allen. I banged him because of his inaccuracy and like when they played Iowa, he was terrible. They played somebody else, might have been Nebraska. He was terrible, in his final year at Wyoming. And I guess Mel knew some people that were close to him, and they just said this kid is a consummate worker. He just keeps working and working and working. And from everything I hear about Justin Fields, he's the exact same thing.
Yeah. That is so good to hear, particularly after there was a misinformation campaign going on during the draft time where Fields' name was being smeared with things like he's the last one in for practice and the first one out. That was reported by Dan Orlovsky, and it was clear that he was getting some misinformation.
Somebody was using Orlovsky to put out some poor information.
Yeah, it was
probably some team that wanted to draft him.
Exactly.
Probably the Chicago Bears or something.
That's great. That is great. Somebody in the chat room, and I can't find the comment right now. Oh, here it is. It's Tony. He says, what do you think about Ryan Pace's ability to bring in more talent? And I got to say, before you answer that question, I got to say that I have been vacillating back and forth on Ryan Pace is a good GM, Ryan Pace is a bad GM. Right now, I am on the good GM page because I'm looking at all of the talent that's on this roster, and I'm saying to myself, maybe I've been too hard on the guy.
Well, you're going to have hits or misses.
Every GM does.
Regardless, okay? That's going to happen. And it's not always, yes, the GM has the final say, but if he's smart, he's listening to the people around him. Okay, so now when you're talking, let's separate the college draft from the from pro free agency. You've got two separate departments. You have your college scouting department, you have your pro department. So it's your guys in your pro department that are grading the potential free agents. And you're going to have your coaching staff involved. You're going to have your coaching staff involved with the college draft also. But it's never one guy's opinion. It's a collective opinion. Now, having been not in the building with Ryan Pace, I don't know if his opinion 75%. I know when I was there, we put a lot on the scouts. Their opinion mattered. Okay. And we would have a minimum of a half dozen reports on every player we drafted between scouts, myself, Jerry, the position coach, the coordinator, sometimes Lovey. So we had a lot of different opinions on a player. And, I'll say this. Player's never as good as the best report, and he's never as bad as the worst report. He's always somewhere in the middle. But the important thing is, how does he fit within the scheme? what can you do with this player if you get him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've heard that Pace and most general managers they pay more focus on the top draft picks and then those middle and late round draft picks. That's totally on the scouting department, and that the GM rarely has much to do with that decision making. He allows basically the scouting staff to recommend who should go. Is there any semblance of truth to that?
Not totally. I think it depends on who the GM is. I'm going to say when I was with the Giants,
Mm-hmm.
that might be very true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When I was with the Bears, not true at all. We spent an inordinate amount of time on the middle and late round picks and free agents, undrafted free agents.
Right.
You know, and you know, you were allowed to bring in 30 people for visits.
Mm-hmm.
15 of those guys would have been undrafted guys we saw as undrafted free agents. And we'd start the recruiting process with them when we brought them in on the visit. And we'd tell them flat out, we're not drafting you. We only lied to one and we drafted them.
I love it.
But and we had that in mind. And that guy went to the Pro Bowl.
Oh, care to name a name?
Yeah. You know, my old age is kicking in. He's from Buffalo. The corner safety who went to the Pro Bowl as a special teamer. And then he went to Baltimore.
Yes.
Graham.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. An excellent player. Didn't he have 2 stints with
Graham.
Didn't he come back a second time?
No, he was here and then went to Baltimore and then went to hometown of Buffalo.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I might have told this before. There's a story. You know, he got hurt at Northwestern
Mm-hmm.
and didn't play the rest of his final year. They played an early season game right here at Northwestern. And so he hurt his ankle, didn't play the rest of the season, really couldn't run for time. One scout made him run, and he ran terrible because he had a real bad ankle. Mm. So some people were using that as a verified time. Well, being that he was from Buffalo, mm-hmm. I knew some history about him. First of all, he was all state in track. He won the state 100 meters in high school.
Nice.
But you knew he could run.
Right.
Second, he ran in a track club during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter ran on that same track club.
Oh.
And so I called my daughter about a month before the draft. And now this is all true story. I said, Ryan, I need some dirt on Corey Graham. What's wrong with him? He said, Dad, there isn't anything wrong. I go, come on, you've known this guy for years. There's got to be something. She said, no, he's the most focused athlete I've ever been around. She had nothing but superlative things to say. And I brought that up in our draft meetings. And then on draft day, when we went to take him, I think we took him in the 6th round. And reality is, if he hadn't been hurt, he probably would have gone in the 2nd or 3rd round. He's a quality player. And Lovey said, you know why I want this guy? I said, no, why? He goes, because of what your daughter said.
Look at that. So, did you pay her? Did you give her?
Hell no.
You paid for college, probably.
You got 4 kids now, boys.
That's a great story. All right, let's talk a little bit about Arlington Heights Stadium. You have some thoughts you want to share on that possibility.
Well, I saw some tweets saying, you know, Bears fans saying who were at the game yesterday, we hope that this is the stadium where they were at yesterday, Allegiant Stadium, is similar to what gets built in Arlington Heights. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I agree with that. And so, just so out of curiosity, I looked up the cost of Allegiant Stadium, and I don't know what construction costs are, et cetera, out in Nevada. I have no clue. But that cost $2 billion to build. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then when I had Googled it, they also had the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. How old is that stadium? Maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I'll do a quick search. Go ahead.
But anyway, that was only $1.56 billion. I think I'd take Mercedes Stadium over Allegiant Stadium every day of the week, and it cost $500 million less. could costs go up $500 million in a few years?
Mhm.
I'm not in construction. I can't answer that.
Mhm.
But the whole point is, the Bears are paying roughly $200 million for that piece of property, which is a huge piece of property.
Mhm.
My thinking is they're going to recoup almost all of that in future land sale. Once they figure out where the stadium's going,
Mhm.
what they need for parking, they're
Mm.
going to sell or lease off the rest. You're going to see retail, hotels. I guarantee you there's going to be a casino there.
Oh yeah.
And when you figure in the cost of selling that off, they're going to get back that 200 million, 198 or whatever the hell it is.
Easily.
And yeah, and I think this is just going to be such a huge moneymaker
Mhm.
for the Bears in the long run.
Mhm. By the way, 2017 when Mercedes-Benz Stadium opened.
Okay, so it's 4 years old.
Right.
Okay, I can't understand why there's a $500 million cost difference between that and Allegiant Stadium.
A lot of
That doesn't make, but it could
lot of
be
gambling money.
the cost of. You would think that in downtown Atlanta, it's going to cost more than semi-suburban Las Vegas, in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what the price tag was.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I read some comment, I think, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it was from a reputable person saying that this could be a move that will make it more attractive for the Chicago Bears to sell the team. That with Virginia not wanting to sell the team, not wanting to sell her dad's team, that after she's left us, that there are so many family members who want to get out of the football business that the purchase of this land is going to help with the sale of the team. Any thoughts on that?
There's members of the McCaskey family that I personally know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know most of them, that never in a million years would they want to sell that team.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, there's probably a few that would want their money. Now, could you buy those few out?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. That I'm not qualified to answer that question. I do not see that happen. Put it this way, not in my lifetime. But then my life, could end tomorrow for all.
Let's hope not. We're going to talk about a Packers win next week. Excuse me, a Bears win over the Packers. I wanted to ask you about Notre Dame football. You have been scouting Notre Dame, and your thoughts about their latest win. That's not a great team, not a great Notre Dame team, but what have you seen that you'd like to share with us?
It's not as good a team as last year, but it's a good solid. They're 5-1 after 6 games, so they're halfway through the regular season. They're going to get into a bowl game. I figured right from the start they'd be 9-3. They may get lucky. You look at the rest of their schedule. I mean, they could run the table. The offensive line is starting to get better. They probably played their best at Virginia Tech. But the one thing, Virginia Tech is one of the toughest places to play at. It's a very loud stadium. I've been there, I'm going to say 10 times for games. I never saw Virginia Tech lose at home at any game I was at. And, so it's very, very difficult to win there. So winning there on the road, that's a pretty good accomplishment for Notre Dame, going forward. Now they got this week off, and they got USC, which is having a down year next week. I'm going to be going to that game. So that'll be an interesting game, and it's a nationally televised game. It's at night. So
excellent. Tony is asking if I agree with you that the Bears are beating the Packers next week. And I have to say, yes, I really have a good feeling that the coaching staff is going to put together a game plan that is going to give the Bears every chance. And I like them at home at Soldier Field. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Justin Fields has his best passing day and that you see him and A-Rob finally develop a connection. Greg, I wanted to ask you about that. Fields has talked about how he stays after practice working with Darnell Mooney, and I'm sure there are other players involved and so forth. But have you seen that before where a quarterback, a young quarterback, practices a lot with a certain player and you see those results on the football field?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, good players do that all the time, and it's not just post-practice; it's pre-practice.
Mm-hmm.
You get out there 15 or 20 minutes early, and then you stay an extra half hour.
Mm-hmm.
Working on certain things, and maybe a coach sticks around and helps them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like college football where you've got that 20-hour time limit per week.
Right.
Between meetings and practice, you can work as long as you want,
Mm-hmm.
and so. Yeah, if the guy's got the work ethic and he's trying to improve timing between himself and certain receivers, they're going to do that work.
Yeah. Mr. Englewood has a question here that I'm interested in your answer. I would like to ask, how did Pace pick Cole Kmet over his teammate Chase Claypool? And the reason I'm interested in your response to this is because I was a huge Chase Claypool fan.
I was too. In fact, I'll say this: I thought you could use as big as Chase Claypool is. I thought you could use him as a move guy too.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I asked him that at the Senior Bowl, and he almost kicked my ass. He didn't want any part of being a tight end, but I know
he's a Canadian. He didn't want to. You did know that, right? He's from up in the Vancouver area.
But yeah, Claypool is a special guy.
Yeah, first of all, move tight end is really a big wide receiver,
right?
Unless they're lined up at the wing and they're going to be used, in a blocking situation. But it's a good question. I think Cole Kmet is going to be a great player. He doesn't have the touches right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that his fault? No, I don't think it's his fault. I just think it's the way things are falling, and you're playing with, a rookie quarterback. Had Dalton been playing, I think you would have seen a lot more touches with him.
Mm.
And so it's the growing pains we're going through. Now, he was targeted more yesterday. And we mentioned that earlier, like five times or something.
The irony is that young quarterbacks usually rely on their tight ends more, and so that's kind of weird that Fields hasn't targeted tight ends more often. But again, they've also kept the tight ends more in an inordinate amount to help out with some of the offensive line issues.
Well, especially the last 2 weeks.
2 weeks, right?
And then they were without two guys. J.P. Holtz was hurt. Personal issue. Nobody knows what that personal issue is with the other guy. Be interesting to see if that's cleared up this week.
Mm-hmm.
But then they use Barr as Alex Barr as a tight end, and another wide tight end. And in fact, I don't know if you heard it on Nagy's press conference. This morning, he was saying that, on the plane back,
I heard that.
Alex Barr's, walking up and down the aisle, kind of bragging, boy, didn't I look pretty good in motion? Yeah, and they told him, go sit down.
I thought it was great that they used bars that way, and it was a wrinkle, an innovation, however you want to characterize it, that I think presented something new for the Raiders to react to. And you got to do that every week. You got to throw something new, or the teams will pick you apart after studying the tape.
What you got to do is throw him a pass.
And
you got to, and he's got to catch it.
Yeah.
Now you got to respect him even more,
mm-hmm.
because you got to account for him. When he's in there, you're basically saying we're going to run the football. Mm-hmm. Right now, that's what the defense is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got to pass a little bit, and perhaps even if he doesn't catch it, throw him a ball.
Mm. All right. I am unlike every other show Greg, Gabriel, and I have done. I am anxious to end this episode because I got to hear this story about what happened with Greg last Thursday. So I'm not even going to tease the rest of the stuff on the Barroom Network. I'm just going to tell you that subscribe to the Barroom Network here at YouTube. You'll get all the alerts as to what's going on. I got to go. I got to hear this story from Greg. Greg, your official goodbye to your fans, please.
Hey, see you next week after the win.
There you go. I love the way you think. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.